2011 and beyond. So HTML5, that's very technical, but it's something from a web development perspective. Anyone who's in web development, design, and so forth has to be thinking about that, because I think that's what helps bring some of this fragmentation together, or eliminate some of the fragmentation over time. The fact that HTML5 can do things, basically HTML5 is a more advanced version of current web development standards that allows, for instance, things such as a website to access the location on the device. So now you can begin to interact with the hardware. Right? The trick has always been, how do you interact with the hardware? How do you interact with the gyroscope? How do you interact with the GPS? How do you interact with the telephony part of this device and things like that? So now you can begin to do things on the device. You can begin to cache or store information on the device. You can build, on the fly, build virtual databases on the device to store information and manage that information. All kinds of cool things that you can do to begin to interact with the device and make the experience for the consumer that much better. So over time, I think HTML5 becomes something that happens. We talked about tablets, obviously, a big deal going forward. We talked about social, local, and mobile coming together. The concept of gamification, really important to think about. So if you think about it from a marketing perspective, one angle is, and this is where companies like Foursquare with badges and so forth get into the business, think of everything as a game, right? Think of even simple things like providing a time of day type coupon as a game, right? It's kind of getting somebody to do something, driving some behavior, encouraging it, giving them an award based on doing something like showing up at happy hour and getting a 2-for-1 drink special, right? Accumulation of points, right? Hotel points is a game. Your LinkedIn, think about your LinkedIn status. If it's not at 100%, that's kind of a game, right? You're getting points, you're getting rewarded, you're seeing you've got a progress monitor. So a lot of thinking in terms of driving consumer behavior is around game theory and driving people to do something because you're getting a reward of some point. So think about marketing from a gaming perspective. There's an evolving body of knowledge and theory around that, and that's something to think about. People love to play games on these devices, but think of it beyond the Angry Birds type game. Think about it in terms of how you could leverage that from a marketing perspective. And then finally, this ties back to the mobile commerce conversation, near-field communication. Okay, if you haven't heard that term, you're going to be hearing a lot about it over the next year. So NFC basically says what's going to happen on these devices. There will be a chip on these devices. These chips are, you're going to start to see certain phones. The expectation is the next iPhone will have an NFC chip in it. The next major Android platform would have an NFC chip in it. Yeah, that may or may not happen, but certainly if it doesn't happen in the next 6 months, within the next year or so, it's going to happen. And essentially what it means is that chip will allow you to do all kinds of things. It's going to be able to store lots of information about you. Essentially it's going to be able to replace your credit card so that when you go to that point of sale and you go to that redemption, instead of someone have to scan a barcode or so forth, just like you can now scan many credit cards, it's an NFC chip. The phone's going to have an NFC chip in it. You'll use your phone to scan at that point of sale, and what's going to happen through an infrastructure layer, it's going to basically reach back into your bank account and pull those funds out to do that purchase. So just like the Japanese do in many cases in terms of buying all kinds of goods and services via these devices, the expectation is that when you buy a phone, let's say a year from now, the expectation is that many phones are going to have those NFC chips in them, and that is going to replace your wallet. It's going to replace the credit card, that you'll be able to tie everything into this device and manage everything via the device. It's a big, complex, messy, scary ecosystem, right? And there's a lot of players in it, everyone from the hardware manufacturers to the app manufacturers like Apple and Google to the credit card companies and banks and so forth. So everyone's trying to figure out how those dollars flow and who gets what piece of that pie. But I think what you're going to see is that probably in 3 years from now, we're going to be buying most or many of our goods and services via these devices, and you won't need a credit card anymore. That it'll all happen via this. But we'll see if that does happen, but I think it will.